Episode 92 of the Five Side Podcast. Let's clap it up. Let's get some energy in the building. We got another guest, a return guest. How many return guests have we had?
This is our first, no?
Raheem was twice.
We've had a couple.
That's true.
Raheem.
Technically, it didn't come out though.
Yeah, no, the audio came out though.
That's true.
So Raheem was twice. I'm trying to think if anyone else was twice. I don't know. Was it?
Probably.
Oh, I guess that settles it. I'm the best guest.
Well, listen, you're one of our return guests. We got Chris Korte here from the UPSL. How you feeling today, bro?
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be back. I love collabing with y'all. You guys stay busy. You stay integrated in the soccer community, the soccer world. I love the work you guys do. So anytime we get to collaborate, it's a blessing.
No, I appreciate you, bro. But of course, today we are joined by
Seb.
What's good, y'all? Gabriel here.
Chris.
Josh.
So we got a lot to get into today, but you are fresh off the UPSL National Championship. So break it down, man. Tell us about the action. I know we had a late winner from an up-and-coming Ghanaian star. Give us all the intro on the action, man.
Yep. So we had a great national finals down in Irvine, California, home of USL team Orange County SC. They play in a great stadium. It's called Championship Park. That's where we have our national finals in the spring. We usually try to come back every year. Sometimes we mix it up. But this has to be one of our most successful yet. I mean, It's getting bigger and better every season. This is the first one where I can honestly say all four teams had great stories, great players. I mean, the journeys these guys are on, it was amazing to see that all come together with our final four teams. And we had some great matches. And I wasn't expecting it to go down the way it went down. But I can definitely say that the team that deserved to win it definitely won it. And hats off to Tennessee Temple from down in Tennessee, Nashville.
Fire.
What's up, baby?
And they beat the team owned by legendary Italian footballer Alessandro Del Piero, World Cup winning baller. His team from LA, who had the best regular season record, I believe, got to the final but actually lost to
Del
Tennessee.
Piero's your boy right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, he loves the UPSL. I've talked to him about 2 or 3 times right now. I talked to him, when he was coming into the league, getting promoted to Premier Division. I talked to him right before the playoffs started, and I talked to him right before the national finals.
Sheesh.
And each time I'm talking to him, we're doing Zoom interviews and podcasts. And every time I'm talking to him, he's just getting more and more excited about this project. And I think it's really interesting to see that him and Jeffrey, the co-owners that kind of own LA10, they really have a direct hand in putting this club together. And the focus that I really like to see is taking local guys and taking them to the pro level. I really like that mentality of doing community first, but also making it an ultra high level on the field and make the output very high where you're connecting back to the community and that fan base. And you're creating something that should last forever, if not go on to something bigger like academy or maybe more community work or maybe even USL. But that's the UPSL's MO. We're here to develop. We know we're a platform here that takes you on to the next level. So everybody that was at the national finals this season deserved to be there. And great matches overall. Tennessee Temple beat LA10 FC. That's right. Check it out on YouTube. Those highlights are something to see.
Is there something specific about the UPSL or American football that excites Del Piero? You mentioned obviously the fact that it could be a space that leverages people to get to the next step.
Yeah.
But something that people might not even know.
Yeah. I think when I'm talking to Alessandro, he told me this kind of started off with conversations during his playing career. You know what I mean?
Really?
When I talked to him, when I talked to him, he was getting offers from like playing and coaching offers. Red Bulls, LA teams are reaching out to him. And I think he was winding up his career in Australia. And I think he just didn't think it was the right time to make that move. And so I think looking into the American market and a playing and coaching career and looking into it like as an investment opportunity, something your family will enjoy, I think what he's really excited about is the same thing that excites all people that come to America exploring some new opportunities. It's that it's so much untapped potential, and especially in the soccer market, such a young market, still developing. So it's really a perfect opportunity for someone with experience like that, Champions League winner, World Cup winner. You come into a new project, you get to build something from scratch with little to no investment, build it up slowly, go through the right processes, get promoted in different leagues, win a national championship, and theoretically, with little investment, you could win a national championship, win $50K with the UPSL, and start building your way up in the business, sense, and playing at a big league. So I think he's excited about the potential. That's the big word he keeps using is the untapped potential. And something else he keeps saying is lack of field space in America and lack of field space in LA. He tells me about everything, the struggles, the positives, the benefits. I went through everything with him. And I would say the potential is definitely the biggest thing. He's just so excited about the untapped potential. And I think he has a little bit of regret there, not playing in the U.S. or at least coaching there. But that's between him.
Of course. Do you think, or not do you think, but is he investing in a bit of that lack of field space because that is kind of an issue that plagues America. Is there's this great phrase about footy that you can play anywhere. Yeah. But here it's harder to play anywhere than other places because of the lack of field space, especially too in condensed cities like New York, not just LA. But is that something that he's also invested in, or is it more just from the UPSL team side?
I think that's every soccer owner's dream.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that you really need to get your business up and running, your soccer club up and running, is having somewhere that you can call home, where your training equipment is, where your staff can be at, where your teams can meet up, where your players can leave and travel to and from some place. And it's very common in Europe, lower division Germany, lower division France, Italy, Spain, they have clubhouses. We don't have clubhouses in America. We got to run out every weekend and rent out fields. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We talked about this last time. I would guess that geographically, the availability of field space directly correlates to the level of soccer that's successful in that area, because if the kids have nowhere to play, it's going to be tough to play at a high level. When we played growing up in high school, what did we play on? A lot of turf fields. That was considered the best. But now, 10, 15 years after that, it's going to be natural grass. Everything's going to have to be natural grass.
Yep.
And that's something that we're mandating in the UPSL slowly, especially for our playoff matches, and we'll see how it goes. But we recognize that. Yeah. And we recognize that most of these guys owning clubs are small business owners. And so, like I said, we try to work with that. We try to be flexible. But yeah, is that Alessandro's dream? Of course it is. That's every club owner's dream. Is it something that's always feasible? And are you able to do that? Not everybody has, money to build a field. So
yeah, of course.
It's tough. I guess we just all gonna be sharing fields until we come up with a bigger solution.
Listen, man, one way or another.
Can you talk about the natural grass as a touch point in the U.S. for soccer? Because I think there might be a misconception, at least the way I grew up, turf was the best. I know it's not the best for health. I know it's not the best for your knees, but growing up, we were super excited to play on turf fields.
Yeah.
So the league mandates that you have grass fields. Can you talk about that? Why, and why is it useful for development?
We don't mandate that yet. That's something we try to implement for our playoffs right now, specifically, and especially for our national finals. That's why we keep going back to Orange County, is because they have a beautiful natural grass field. Not even regular grass. It's a different type of Bermuda grass. You know what I'm talking about? So
the high grade. Yeah.
The high grade stuff. And so, but going back to your point, I think growing up, the reason why we love turf fields so much is because when you have a turf field, plain and simple, the ball's not on a bumpy surface.
Yeah, because we had shitty grass. That's
exactly.
The reason, we had bad grass. Exactly. I did not have no good grass.
So you got excited to play on turf field. You know what I mean? And now in my old age of 30, I'm looking at turf field looking like a doctor visit, loaded. You know what I mean? I'm about to get my ice bath ready for my knees right now. Yeah. But I just think we think at the UPSL, our vision is that to promote and showcase high-level soccer, it can't be on a football field with high school football field with football lines. You know what I mean? The lines bothers me. The lines bothers everybody, all the higher ups of the UPSL. And it's something we talk about all the time. We want to explore more stadiums and more places to host events and stuff like that. But it goes back to the field stuff. And so, I think it's just about raising the standard, but doing it at a pace where everybody can keep up with and being fair about it.
Yeah. One interesting thing you said about the LA 10 team was that he's specifically pulling up kids that are local from Southern California. I think that's really dope to hear, because one conversation we've had on a previous podcast is kind of about football and culture in the different cities in America, but sometimes how that's not always reflected once you get to the professional level. But I think it's really cool to hear that he's actually tapping into that community. So this LA 10 team has a legit LA feel with LA kids with their own expression of football from Southern California. So that's dope to see, because I think UPSL is doing that more than any other league in America, from what I can tell.
And you know what? That's probably just the thing that makes the most sense is, where are you going to get players? Well, you're going to get them in your local community.
Yeah.
And are you going to get the best of the best? No, but you're at least probably going to pick up some good players that couldn't pay for those opportunities other people could have. So just by being connected to your community, I think plenty of easy ways to create a really high-level club. You just got to connect with your community and get out there. But, speaking on the local talent thing, big clubs do it too. Real Sociedad.
Yeah, absolutely.
They weren't allowing people that weren't born in the Basque area to play for the club. They slowly had to change that a little bit.
Yeah.
But, that's a great example. It is possible. Barcelona, you know what I mean? Their academy, every year you're seeing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. Every season they're debuting 15 and 16-year-olds. So it's possible through the youth. You know what I mean? There's different ways to do it. There's some teams in the UPSL, they do it the Chelsea way. They spend a bunch of money and they roll that dice and they try to win that $50K back in the national championship. Sometimes it doesn't work out. That's a big bet. And so, but I like people that do it the right way. You got to start off the community. That's the best way to do it.
Talking about providing opportunity. Could you break down kind of how Tennessee Temple are doing so with like, giving resources and just opportunity to the kids that are more local, and even just shining light on more of the immigrant communities as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's something I really love about Tennessee Temple. And some of that stuff, like I was meeting the guys after they won the national championships, just going around asking them where they're from.
Okay.
Getting some different stories. Like,
where are they from?
A lot of them from Ghana, Senegal,
cool,
Cote d'Ivoire. You know what I mean? Then we got some Central Americans in there too. But the real thing that I admire the most about Tennessee Temple is that they're looking to bring footballers from Africa, from that continent. Gif Nadam, head coach Gif Nadam, he's Nigerian, and his kind of vision is to provide more opportunities to people back in the homeland and get guys coming over from Africa. And what he does is he gets them set up with youth coaching jobs. They get their coaching license. They're also playing for his team, so they're playing for money, semi-professionally on the weekends, and they're learning how to coach and impact their local communities and be a part of the American community. So what he really does is I really think this guy's transforming lives by bringing these players over. You know what I mean? Giving them jobs, giving them playing opportunities, sometimes even housing.
And coaching, you said too.
Yeah, coaching. One of the first things that that happened when I was interviewing Dominic Oduro, who used to play for Manchester City, now just won a national championship with Tennessee Temple. One of the first things that happened in the interview was Gift came over and said, "This is one of my best youth coaches right here." At the beginning of the interview, that was the point that he was trying to make immediately. And the way that Dom lit up when he started talking about his community and talk about where his real joy comes from. Because if we're being totally honest, if we're talking to a guy like that, you signed for Man City from Right to Dream Academy in Ghana at 17. You don't play a minute for Manchester City first team in 5 years. You go on loan to 4 or 5 different places. You're not having fun. You know what I mean? But coming to America, starting a new life, providing for your family back home, connecting with the community here, that's something that excites these guys. And that's how they fall into the UPSL. It all starts with soccer clubs, with community projects, and UPSL brings those communities together.
No, shout out to Keith, because at the end of the day, he probably saw how coaching was another way for him to continue his love affair with the sport. And even just shining light and providing players with the opportunity to tap into that early is important. As you said, like being a professional in anything sometimes could kill your love for the sport because of the responsibilities, the reality of the fact. But if you're coaching and you're balling, that's a perfect balance.
Speaking of balling, he scored the winning goal in the national championship too. And you said what, 78th, 80th minute winner too? So
it was right there about the 80th minute. I mean, the ball's bouncing out. On one bounce, he's taking it on the half volley, upper 90. And I'm like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's a pro. I'm like, I've seen a pro hit a ball
somewhere.
The way he knuckled it, boom, he knew exactly what he was doing. And then I look it up and he's right back. I'm like, whoa. So, that's just the level. You know what I mean? The right back from Manchester City Academy 8 years ago is the man of the match at the UPSL National Finals. That shows you like the journey he's been on and the journey of the league. And he's looking around like, I'm happy I won this national championship. Like this was hard. Like I had to travel to 6 different states and beat 14 different teams. You know what I mean? And they didn't even have the best season. I think they lost like 2 or 3 times. And they're going up against a team that's scored 52 goals in about 15 games. Lost 0 games.
52 and 15 is disgusting.
More than 3 a game.
Disgusting. So, that's what I'm telling you. Del Piero knows what he's doing with that team. And Giff, he's got his own way. You know what I mean? You got a Juventus legend who's growing this thing, and in 3 years, he's got a 50K national championship game on the line. And you've got Gift, who's building this for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, building this project. The club changes names once or twice, and he keeps at it. But he does it his way. And both teams end up in the same spot. They just do it different ways. One requires a lot of community work, not as much funds. The other one's, you're doing heavy recruiting. It requires a little bit more investment. But both those teams were, without a doubt, our best 2 teams in the whole UPSL. Those 2 teams that made it. So.
Man, the final was beautiful to see. And speaking of Dominic Oduro, former Man City baller, scored in the final. Somebody who looks like he could be on the move. Is there any other young players you'd want to shout out that you think could follow in the footsteps of the recently signed Yan Diomande, we talked about previously, but made his way with Leganés, played against Real Madrid, played against Barcelona last season, and is now signed for RB Leipzig, all at the age of 18. Also won a national championship in South Florida back when he was in the UPSL. But is there any other players that you think could maybe follow that trajectory? Is it someone like Dom? Is it somebody else out there? What do you think right now?
And
for sure.
Also about Jan, like, is there anything that you know that maybe the audience doesn't know?
Story time.
You're like
for sure
privileged to be in a position where you know about like the things that you might face back then. Like, what do you know?
I still laugh at some of those pictures because like I got my boys came to that game and some of them in the background. They were on the field celebrating with the team. And I turn around and my boys are celebrating with Frenzy in the team's huddle. And I'm like, oh no, I got to go get my, because But yeah, no, that was. But just to clarify, so Dominic, I believe, was approaching either at or approaching the age of 30. So he was signed to Manchester City about 7 or 8 years ago, and just was on loan, not getting any first team minutes. Went to about 4 or 5 different clubs. Signed up with the MLS draft. Got drafted by Seattle, and because Seattle ends up not having a free international spot, his career falls apart and he starts playing USL and eventually starts playing UPSL. So, that journey is way different than a Yan Diomande, who's also coming from Africa, from Cote d'Ivoire, and he's coming to Florida for an academy, for an education, on a scholarship, and he's playing soccer for his school and also playing in the UPSL on the weekends. Those are two very different stories. Which one is more common in the UPSL? I would say both, 50-50. It's a healthy combination of young players trying to play up to get to a high level, and maybe guys 28, 29, 30 trying to get back into the game, trying to play at a high level, and both have succeeded. Wow. I've seen 28-year-olds retire. I promise you, Walter Varela played in the Northeast in the UPSL conference for about 2 different teams, Brockton being one of them. Africa
Brockton,
United,
Massachusetts?
Brockton FC in Massachusetts, I believe.
From. Brockton.
Okay,
Yeah,
shout out Brockton.
Yeah.
He played for Brockton, and he played for another team called Africa United, I believe. And he was playing in the USL up to the age of 26. He was a winger. Took off of playing in the USL for 2 years. At 28, he gets signed for another USL team, and he's just playing UPSL for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when people say like age is a thing or it's not that possible, the game is always changing. The game is always changing, and it's really on you and people watching at home to get on it themselves and connect with those people, because the truth is, you never know. There is a USL or an MLS next team looking for a 28-year-old winger that has 6 years of professional experience. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't need to be a 10-year pro, but if I could give this guy a smaller deal and he's got at least 4 or 5 years experience on his belt, he can come off the bench and maybe do something. And so that's the kind of thinking around those older players. But for Yan Diomande to see something like that, that's truly, I would say that maybe that's even more difficult, because you got to trust your instinct and trust your gut at a younger age. Especially coming from a foreign country. I mean, this guy wasn't even speaking English. He came to the U.S.
Wow,
speaking French only.
Really tough, yeah.
You know what I mean? And he in Florida, you got more Spanish speakers than French speakers down there. So you know what I mean. So coming to the U.S. on a scholarship, doing it that way, and then ending up in the UPSL, and then just to see his growth in the UPSL, scoring more and more goals and developing as a player. He started off as a right winger, a little bit more reserved. Now he's a right forward, and now he's dribbling in the box, scoring goals and dropping hat tricks on you. So both journeys I respect. For Yan to see something like that, it's really hard to imagine, because it's really so rare to see a guy come from another country, play high school soccer here, and then just be able to go back like that, and then jump into first division level. It's
in 2 different countries.
In 2 different countries,
unbelievable,
in the span of 6 or 8 months, and to go from a transfer value of 0 from the UPSL to 2 years later, you're worth 20 million, 25 million USD. So, I think the journey of Yan Diomande, that's one of the best stories we got. That's going to be tough to beat for me, because that's a kid coming by himself, not speaking the language, just speaking pure football, and coming here and tearing it up. And I don't know what his family situation, I don't know what his grades were looking like, but he delivered on the field. Incredible. And he ended
probably the classroom too. He seemed like a smart kid, to be honest.
Listen, I mean, and shout out to him. You have to have your head on straight to be doing that at a young age,
for sure.
And especially to learn a new language. You're not stupid.
The mentality is there, and the reality of the fact is, as unique and as difficult it is to replicate that, there's probably more out there, man.
Yeah,
a lot more out there
for sure. And I think the key there is tapping into giving people a chance, giving kids a chance, giving foreign kids a chance. We're a country of immigrants. Shout out our current political situation. Opinions on that may vary, but we're a country of immigrants.
100%.
You know what I mean? I would say all of our parents here are immigrants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're all
partially,
first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All first generation Americans for the most part here. So, I think the ones that find success is the ones that take chances on kids that people don't really look at. You know what I mean? Like, why would I invest this money giving this kid a scholarship to my fancy school down in Florida? Like, why would I take this risk? Well, because I think he's got the heart. I think he's got the potential.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Incredible to see.
So,
bro.
but to speak on the national finals experience, that was really good to see. That was the first time I saw him play in person. Yeah, one story I gotta definitely tell about Yan Diomande is that goal that he scored in that UPSL national finals spring 2023. We were at Loudon Field. I remember this. I mean, he picks up the ball at left wing, and he dribbles past the first guy, second guy, third guy. He's cutting in and out and flat foots the goalkeeper and just slots it home. And keep in mind, it's one of the funniest pictures I have too, because it's like defenders on the ground, hands in their heads, and this 17-year-old high school junior is running off and celebrating. And that's one of the most viral clips we have, honestly.
Yeah.
Is seeing that happen, because he was playing against a tough team at the time from Chicago. Former pros on that team, pro indoor players, 25, 26-year-olds. And to see that 17-year-old just light up the field on one of the biggest stages we have, 20K on the line at the time. Now we've increased it to 50K for our national champion. But, funny thing is I was actually sitting next to one of the DC United Academy directors at the time. And, I was just talking to him, giving him a sense, telling him about the league. That was kind of when we were still growing with our MLS connections and getting MLS academies to take part in us. And just kind of sitting with him, kind of getting his thoughts on the league and the development that he thought the UPSL brought to the DC United Academy, who was playing with us at the time. And, one of the things he told me, I asked him, would you ever be interested in any of these players for maybe the first team or to recommend or anything like that? And he told me not really, but the timing of all that was so funny, because as he was telling me, like we kind of have our own system. As soon as Jan gets the ball, he's dribbling, he's going back and forth. I see this guy's eyes light up.
Yeah.
He's looking at me like, our pathway is, and he's like looking across, and I see his eyes light up. I didn't even see the goal. I saw the full goal.
Oh, really?
Because I was talking. No, I was talking to the DC Academy director. I'm like, listen, the UPSL is great. You should really. And he turns around.
It's like
he's like, scratch everything I just said. He's like, how am I supposed to ignore that?
Yeah.
He looks at me. He's like, we didn't really come here looking for like any players or to scout. Because I was kind of pushing, like, can I market? Like, looking for players. Get these guys excited. Sure. He's like, no, don't say that. Right after he says that, D-Money scores that solo goal. He's like, you know what? It's really impossible to ignore talent like that.
And from that, Televante playing against Real Madrid, Barca. Playing against Barca, playing against Real Madrid, and now RB Leipzig. Playing against likes of Bayern Munich.
It moved so quickly after that, because he literally got on a plane and said, I just won the semi-pro national championship, player of the game, top scorer. 17 years old. Yeah, if I had an agent, or at least someone my family who cared, I'd be on a plane too, trying to get some tryouts. Look at this film. Look at me chopping up 24-year-olds in the U.S. But to think that he would be able to get signed by a first La Liga team,
La Leganés, bro. Yeah.
Despite their form, whatever it was in La Liga, it wasn't the best, but he was playing, and they were trusting him for some big games.
Barca and Real Madrid.
I mean, it's so hard to guess what's going to happen in someone's soccer career. That's why I say it always goes back to giving people a chance.
Yeah.
Go back to your immigrants in your community. Go back to people in your community that love soccer. Go back to giving people opportunities who aren't expecting it, who maybe aren't expecting it, but who wouldn't normally get opportunities. The kids that are training by themselves in their garage, working on the same first touch every day. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So a great quote is, you don't fear a man that has many skills. You fear a man that's practiced the same skill 1,000 times, because that makes him a master. So those kids that are working on there's honestly less and less reason for players to go pro in the U.S. every single year we have in this country. It's the sport only.
Break that down, bro.
The sport only gets bigger. We're only getting bigger and better. We just had the Club World Cup.
Yep.
In the United States. We had Donald Trump, we had Doja Cat, we had everybody in New York, we had Coldplay doing the halftime. That's only
J Balvin, who we were in a shoot with. Yeah,
I saw that.
Crazy,
I saw that.
Crazy, yeah.
And how much bigger is the World Cup going to be?
Oh,
even bigger.
Unreal, way bigger. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just after those two events, like, people are going to respect us a lot more. Yeah. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to be more Del Piero's coming in.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, what's the easiest way I can get into this game? And they're going to look at the semi-pro level and say, wow, little to no cost, low player fees. I can get started, something going right now. And that's one of the first things Del Piero did. As soon as he started his team, he was like, I'm talking to my boy Giorgio Chiellini, and I'm trying to get him involved because I'm excited, because it's like LA's a hot spot. We got ballers. Go for it.
Did he play on LAFC?
He did play on LAFC.
Right? Chiellini?
Yeah, that was about half a season or a season. And I think he won the cup with them as well.
Yeah, it was Bale and everybody.
For how short of a time he played there, he's still pretty close to the team.
I understand.
Really cool.
He still goes to LA too.
Yeah.
That's fire, bro.
But what I was going to say about Jan is, Jan's first games at the pro level were outside back. And he was scoring solo bangers in the UPSL. So that's what I mean. Like, you have no idea what a player is going to turn into. So
it's crazy.
So did I expect any of that to happen? No. Am I still kind of in disbelief? Yeah, a little bit. To turn on my TV and see this kid playing against Bayern Munich, And I'm like, is this guy gonna mark Luis Diaz? Like, what is this?
That's
what am
unreal,
I
bro.
like, what am I seeing right now? You know, I was just shaking this kid's hand, giving him a check for the top scorers of the national finals, and 2 years later, he's trying to mark up like the biggest attackers in world football.
Yeah, unbelievable, bro.
But going back to my point, where every year it gets easier and easier to get to the next level in this country, it's because we're only getting bigger.
Yeah.
That field problem, that's gonna go away eventually.
Yeah.
The only problem, and I have this problem in Miami, because Miami, such a small area, a lot of soccer loving Latinos.
Yeah.
The city's so small, the area is so small, we don't have that many fields.
Mhm.
You got to drive north, you got to drive here, and you're also competing with 50 other clubs in the area.
And sports.
And other sports.
And just other sports.
And other sports.
For space.
But guess what's going to change that? When people see that we got the World Cup, when people see we can host these events, when people see, okay, Thomas Muller, okay, Messi, okay, World Cup.
Son, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just talking about being integrated in the Miami community down in Florida with the UPSL is, you know, you're seeing FIFA move their offices into Miami.
Yep.
You're seeing CONCACAF have their offices in Miami. And you're kind of noticing, if you've been paying attention to the game, you would agree with what I said, is that the world is looking at the United States
100%.
as a long-term soccer project.
You have to.
You know what I mean? Look at what they tried to do in China a couple years ago with that Chinese Super League.
Yeah.
Didn't really work out. Why? Probably had to do with passion. Probably had to do with maybe business owners trying to change their mind after a while.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Saudi Arabia can replicate that. But this is the highest potential for growth for football careers, for football investors, for club owners, for former players, everything. And where's the obvious place to start? UPSL.
And the players in this country too, because you think, I always bring up the Olympics. We're always going to have either the most golds or the most Olympic medals overall every 4 years.
Yeah.
We're the most athletic country in the world, and there's really no debate. All we need is the accessibility to get the best athletes into soccer with that same passion, and the UPSL is the #1 driver for that in terms of a league organization and breaking down the barrier of cost, barrier of connection, and kind of nepotism, all that. So y'all are doing that important work, both for the local kids here, then also bringing in the international. So literally UPSL is the vehicle for when eventually we'll be the best in the world at footy.
For sure, yeah.
You know
I think one of the coolest things about the UPSL is that, like, it replicates what you have in countries like England, countries like Germany, where there are teams that are so small in divisions that are so low within the totem pole of the sport within those countries. And those teams end up representing such micro communities. The UPSL, like a team that's like called like Africa United in the UPSL,
that's incredible.
it shows like the micro community that team represents within this league. Like, we just watched Grimsby Town beat Manchester United yesterday. Stories like that we don't have in American sports. And I know we talked about it last year, but like it's really amazing how what the league is able to do in terms of taking smaller teams and giving them like a platform, because it's very American. We like underdog stories in this country. Yeah. So there's no way that the underdog stories that the UPSL is able to produce won't work. There's just no way.
Yeah.
It has to.
And it connects too into y'all involvement in the US Open Cup, which I know you want to talk about as well. So,
for sure. That the US Open Cup, our relationship with them growing every year, that's been remarkable to see. Last year we had 50 teams. This one we got north of 66. Still confirming that number. That might hit 70 just by the fact that some teams play in our league and also other leagues, so they applied under other names, but they're still playing in the UPSL as well. So officially 66, my estimate probably north of 70. I'll probably add another 10 in there. But that competition is honestly for us one of the most important parts of our product, because I think outside of the UPSL national finals, that's the closest you're going to get to the professional level. The professional, not the professional level in terms of big stadiums, travel, sponsorship money, that stuff. When it comes to professionalizing the game and taking it seriously, that US Open Cup, that's your first start to your professional career, your professional career, you taking the game seriously, because that's where your travel begins. That's where you start facing teams from other regions. That's when you start realizing age doesn't really matter. Where you played high school soccer doesn't really matter. We're just 11 guys. You brought your 11 guys. I brought my 11. Let's see who wins this game and moves on to the next round. And that's important for us over here, is because we don't just want to offer the ability to play in Division 1 and get promoted to Premier Division and then win a national championship. We want you to play in other leagues. Yeah. We want you to play your reserve side in other places. We want you to be as flexible as you can to give your players what they want, because we want to be as flexible as possible. 100%. And so by adding that added benefit of the US Open Cup, we can take our top teams and we can add another layer of professionalism, get them closer to the top level. And just like how when I told you guys the story about balling against Atlanta United and Atlanta United reaching out and signing some of our guys. Same thing can happen at U.S. Open Cup level. And so seeing some of those semi-pro guys kind of scratch the surface against professional clubs in the U.S. Open Cup, that's where you kind of start to see the dream come to life. That's where it turns into UPSL, just a Sunday league, to, okay, UPSL, I can actually do something here. And maybe even win some money, build my resume, do a Jan Diamani, dribble all y'all, make you look like a fool, take that clip and send it to my agent. You know what I mean?
100%.
Can I ask a question that I have no idea what the answer is? Are there teams as far north as Alaska?
Yeah, so we're going past Northern California, past Pacific Northwest. We've had a conference in Alaska, actually.
A whole conference is ridiculous.
Yeah. I have no idea what I should probably go out to one of those games.
Yeah,
let's
just
go to
show
Alaska
up.
soccer.
I'm just gonna show up with
That's
the phone.
That's a docu.
Alaskan
Open 90,
soccer
you
is
know what I
kinda
mean?
fire.
Pitching that.
That's
What?
cool.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, we've had that for a while.
Alaska
Shout out my
for a
boy.
while.
Shout out my boy Leaf Egan.
His name is Leaf?
His name is Leaf. Shout out Leaf.
Yo, the guy named Leaf.
Shout out Leaf.
In the Alaskan soccer
Yes.
conference of the
Shout out
UPSL.
Leaf.
Leaf.
Leaf spelled how?
This like
Leaf
a
be,
movie.
Leaf be taking care of it. Leaf does it big.
Shout out Leaf.
Wait,
bro.
Leaf spelled L-E-I-F?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was
yes.
L-E-A-F, but okay.
Wait. You said L-E-I-F?
Yeah.
No, it's L-E-A.
Like the leaf.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the leaves behind.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. His name is Leaf. That's
His name is
fire.
Leaf.
Shout out Leaf.
Wow, that's not like an artist.
beast.
That could be like
Sounds like an Alaskan.
music artist,
Sounds like an Alaskan.
or an Alaskan, or a painter, or a photographer. That's Leaf, bro. Leaf,
fire.
you be a gangster shit. Like,
Shout out Leaf. I bet Leaf will never see this, but shout out Leaf.
yeah, shout
I'll
out
send you this
Leaf,
clip,
bro.
Leaf. And you'll text me back, say, who is this?
You imagine that's a crazy text with you.
Alaska Arctic Rush.
That's what it's called. Wow, or is that the team?
That's one of the
Just some
teams.
teams, yeah.
So
Alaska.
Rush, the organization Rush Soccer,
Yeah.
they got a Alaska branch.
How did that happen? Just like people in Alaska wanting access as well.
Literally all we need.
Americans, we be forgetting about Alaska in general.
Yeah.
Like the election, like anything. We don't think about Alaska on that. That's crazy. That's beautiful to see, honestly.
How did that start? It starts with two teams in Alaska want to play soccer, and we call that a league. And
Let's
we charge
go.
them money.
That's how it starts, bro.
No, it does. It literally starts like that.
Yeah.
It starts with. Sometimes you start with 4 teams in a conference.
It's something.
And it's something in the Alaska area. That's definitely something.
Yeah.
But it goes up and down. But we stay consistent over there. It works. I wish we could get Hawaii.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. That's another thing. Mexico, we were working on for a while.
Oh, really?
Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, Mexico, we were working on. Couple Canadian teams we have. A couple of guys, they drive from like Toronto and north of the border. They drive to Buffalo to play against those teams.
Wow.
So we talked about the success story of Jan Diomande making the big move over to Leganes and then to RB Leipzig from the UPSL, but some other professional success stories, such as Don Dietzen Lucius on FC Dallas. He scored against the U.S. for Haiti.
Yeah.
We have Parker Baez going to the Sevilla Academy.
Yeah.
And we have Andrew Rick and Frank Westfield as well, starting games for the Philly Union, who are currently top of the MLS.
Those are all very different stories, but huge developmental journeys for each of those players. Right. The last ones you mentioned, those are Philadelphia Union has a youth academy side that competes in the UPSL Northeast Division, and their starting goalie is Andrew Rick, and their right back is Frank Westfield, and so. Philadelphia Union, who are at the top of the table in the MLS, currently recently had a goalkeeping crisis. Andre Blake was out injured long term, and their second string was out long term.
Wow.
So our good boy Andrew gets called up to play in the Open Cup, and then the next match, and he actually keeps 2 or 3 clean sheets in those 4 games, and he gets a Player of the Game award.
Wow.
And this is a kid who's 17, who is he's literally bouncing in and out. At one point, he had to have been on a UPSL field and an MLS field, like within
24 hours,
2 or 3 days.
Yeah,
and the same thing with Frank. Frank is the outside back. Frank actually just played, started the last game at the outside back. Andre Blake is back now, so I don't believe Andrew plays every game anymore. But those are 2 huge examples of immediate integration from UPSL into the MLS level. So to see stuff like that, that's great. Those guys didn't necessarily develop in the UPSL with us. They competed for us for a season or 2. I think their true development shines a light on the good work that Philly Union is doing over there in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Fire.
But we're a part of that. We're just the platform. The first one you mentioned, Don. Shout out Don. Don's a massive baller. He's been putting in a lot of hard work in the UPSL. He spent Some of these guys, they will go missing, unknown in the UPSL 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You'll pop out with a contract in Sweden, and suddenly you get transferred to FC Dallas for $10 million from the Swedish league.
And that's what happened.
And that's exactly what happened. And in the meantime, Don was called up by the Haitian national team, who just so happened to have a Gold Cup game against the U.S. national team. And Don scores a goal.
Incredible.
And so to see, obviously, MLS executives are watching that game. Yeah. Obviously, everybody in the U.S. is watching that game. And so you're seeing this guy score. What's your immediate reaction? Who is this guy?
Then you
look him up. Transfer value, whatever, $2 million. Okay, 16 goals in 30 games. Winger from Haiti, from America before that, and $10 million. Boom! Now he's a professional player full time. And to see guys like that, I love seeing those guys that grind for 2-3 years, semi-pro level. It's like, why are you still doing this, bro? You're 25. Well, you about to see why I'm still doing this. Passion. It still happens. Passion. And guess what? Chasing a dream long term and turning your dreams into reality and turning your dreams into money and then providing for your family back home. That's the real dream. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, they don't give up on that dream. Some of us, I can speak for myself. When I was 16, 17, 18, and I saw myself not going on that professional path, I took that for granted. I'm like, man, I could do other stuff. It's not a big deal. I could go to college, chill, play other sports, just play soccer recreationally, But some of these guys, it's either football or nothing. It's do or die for these guys. They come over here, they're playing to ball and seek the professional level, or they're going to have a full-time job in the U.S. coaching, working in soccer. Either way, they're going to provide money and provide for their family back home. Yeah. And those are the stories I love the most. So shout out Don, $10 million transfer, FC Dallas, MLS baller now, UPSL player 2 years ago. Shout out Rick and Frank Westfield on Philadelphia Union. UPSL ballers probably right now, but still playing on the best team in MLS, Philly Union. I mean, that's the top team in the East. Yeah. And you start a 16, 17-year-old goalie, and he gets 2 clean sheets in 4 games and a man of match award. And we got a couple of others, I believe, as well.
Yeah, we got a few others as well. We have Demorny Hutchinson on the New England Revolution 2, Mo War on Orange County USL, Rion Torrey on Orlando City B, and then Perrin Barnes on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Yeah. So those are all guys, I would say, it's funny. The amount of foreigners we're seeing come here and take advantage of this league and take advantage of these opportunities, man. Some of these American kids need to start stepping up.
Hey, man.
You know what I mean? And that comes down to us and U.S. soccer and the national team and our academies and our youth level, because I'm seeing the same story time and time again. I'm seeing these guys come from other countries, maybe harder pathways. They come to America and they take those chances. They take a hold of their opportunity. And, we're disproving the same thing that everybody else thinks, which is past the age of 20, your shots are going pro or nada.
Yeah.
And we're proving at this point 6 or 7 times a season, probably over 10 times a year, I'm getting guys signed over the age of 23 to European clubs and MLS teams. How is that possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. It's possible because the UPSL brings people together. It's easily accessible. It gives you opportunities to play at a high level at a low cost. And if you ball out, anybody can be Jan Diamande and go to the national championship, score a banger, get the MVP, and then move on with their playing career. And that doesn't matter if you're 17. You could be 25 and still do that and get a contract. And it's happened. Those guys you mentioned right there, 3 of those guys are after college age. They're signing their first deals. And then one of those guys, Parker, he plays, he's from Virginia. That's a high school kid. So getting developed by high school soccer in America and college soccer in America, we're proving a lot of people wrong that this is possible. And I think we kind of have a mentality here in the States where it's kind of like a victim mentality a little bit here, where it's like, it's not our fault, or there's no fields, or where am I supposed to play, or even like the basic stuff like my coach hates me, right?
Yeah.
None of these guys, every single name that we've gone through today, none of those guys took any excuses. And if a team didn't mess with them, or if they didn't have a good fit, guess what? They found a new team. Some of these guys even changed cities. A lot of Rion Torrey, Japanese kid who came to college in the U.S., he went to college over here, played UPSL in Kansas. He's going to Wichita, then Missouri. He's going all over the country just playing football and chasing his dream. And
beautiful.
Guess what that ends up with? MLS first draft pick, Orlando City. And he's playing for Orlando City B right now. So anything is possible, my friends.
Anything is possible with the UPSL. Yeah. That's beautiful, bro. Any other stories, any other things going on with UPSL you'd like to talk about? I know we have the Women's Championship coming up, which will be the first ever, I believe.
Yeah, we just wrapped up our first ever UPSL Women's National Championship.
Incredible.
Shout out those guys there, putting together something amazing, getting those teams together, building that. That's really something that we've built from scratch, and I can really see integrating very well into the current ecosystem for women's soccer.
That's great.
Simply because none of these ladies, they don't have a level below the NWSL or below that USL Super League where it's easily accessible. I keep going back to that word accessible, but it matters so much because if I can't afford to play for your team, it doesn't matter how good I am. I'm just going to go somewhere else where I can play cheaper and then try to shine over there.
Right.
But because we're so accessible, I'm really proud to kind of present the UPSL as a platform for women's soccer in this country. And you're going to start to see things change. We just had Fort Lauderdale United in USL Super League just entered their reserve team in the UPSL. And that's, I think, going to be one of many professional women's teams that are going to say, well, I got a semi-pro league in my backyard that plays at a high level. Might as well enter my, reserve professional women's side, because I don't even think they have a reserve league. I don't even know what reserve players in the NWSL are actually doing.
You need game time.
Outside of game time.
You know what I mean?
All
Reserve squads are important, absolutely.
They're just practicing the whole time.
Yeah.
They don't have anywhere to play. And so Fort Lauderdale United sees that, probably because the connection of us being situated, headquartered in Miami. Fort Lauderdale United has seen that. We've got Minnesota Aurora, who also play in the USL Women's League. I think more women's clubs are going to start taking up this opportunity to give their reserve players game time, and I welcome them and look forward to seeing most of them and more of them take part. But we did something really big, and it was at KC Current's training facility. We put on the national finals. We had all the teams come out. We had a great national finals. The national final for the women's ended in PKs.
Sheesh.
It was Albany Alley Cats from Western New York against Little Rock, Arkansas. And to see those two different teams from two completely different areas come together and compete, because I bet you that's probably the furthest those girls have traveled for such a high level soccer game. So for them, it's exciting. There's prize money on the line, and something that's incredible to see is the player of the match was actually the goalkeeper for Albany Alley Cats, who helped them win the PK shootout, and she was 15 and a half years old.
Hey, yo, 15?
So she got player of the match, saved the PK shootout. She wasn't even tall, 15 and a half. She was probably about 5 foot something.
Yeah.
Heart of a lion, is jumping off the line, making huge saves. To win a first ever national championship for her team. Shout out Albany Alley Cats. But that's just the beginning. To see a high level youth player come in and keep a clean sheet in the national championship, I want to see more of that. And next time, over the next course of the next few events, I want to see more and more high level women's college players compete here. And I think it integrates well into the professional path, into the college soccer pathway. And I can see this growing to be something very big, this UPSL women's.
That's fire, bro. It's beautiful to see. Any additional questions, Seb?
I was gonna ask, what is the long-term vision for the American consumer? Oh, actually, where can Americans watch the UPSL?
Right now, we're doing all of our streaming on YouTube.
Fire.
That's just the easiest platform that we have right now. That's where we get a bunch of views. It's the most accessible. Roku, phone
accessible.
Apps, everything. We just want people to watch the games.
Yeah.
We want to grow the product, get people to watch the games. Our dream is one day televised. I see, USL getting television deals. I see other sports and other leagues getting deals.
ESPN Plus,
ESPN Ocho. I'll take either one. But it's going to keep growing bigger. But the thing on me personally, I want to see us really take this UPSL National Championship event. I want to be the semi-pro national championship event in the U.S., the one that everybody's wants to know about. Who's going to win this 50K? Oh, are my boys playing? Are you competing? I want that to be the thing that people think of right before MLS. I want them to think. I want people to think right before I'm able to go pro, I've got to play UPSL. It's the easiest thing. It makes the most sense. And so, my dream is to really explode the product and really get one of those big streaming deals. But right now, we've got everything on YouTube. We're getting great views. People are enjoying the product. The UPSL National Finals did excellent. We had beautiful weather. We had a beautiful broadcast. watch the replay on YouTube. The broadcast was hosted by yours truly, pre-match, halftime, post-game.
Come on.
We had a lot of fun, and it was a great match. And we had a game winner scored by a former Man City player. What else could I ask for? You know, head coach of Tennessee Tempo, he's on his knees thanking the Lord, you know, for that win and that 50K and that national champion. So the passion there, like this league has to be an integral part of the American soccer story. It has to be.
There you go.
It has to be, because it's the biggest national product that connects the local game to the professional game. So it's the most obvious intermediate step, and I think I wish I had the opportunity to
when you were younger.
When I was younger to play in something like this, because there's no way I could have afforded to play in the MLS academies.
Same.
That wasn't an option, and so my only option was be the best guy in the team and get a scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a little tougher than, you know.
Of course.
But this to me is a no-brainer, and I'll say it again. You know, the UPSL, I think, is going to be an integral part of the American soccer story. I don't see a professional player in the next 5-10 years coming through the American soccer system without playing in or knowing someone in the UPSL.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, so like I was saying, to me, you know, the future of American soccer, the UPSL has to be an important integral part of that story. It's what integrates, you know, it's what connects the local game to the national professional level. It's the obvious middle step. And not only that, I'm also super proud about the opportunities we're able to provide to people of diverse backgrounds, not even ethnicities and countries, but you know, we have a group out in Georgia called Columbus Knights, and they are made up of active military personnel. And to see, you know, talking to those guys out there, you know, he's just like, I had a local club. We actually had a rivalry with these guys. They started losing players due to military duty, so we decided to combine the clubs so that my players can supplement his military players. And you know, he's just telling me about that journey. This is just, you know, a Georgia guy in the military. You know, things just came together, and honestly, he was telling me about that, and I was like, that's kind of one of the smartest things to do, because you know, the professionalism that those guys bring to the game, like, you know, when your team is made up of military men, they're not showing up, you know, kicking their cleats around, chewing gum, like these guys are ready to play. And he was kind of telling me that's the smartest decision I've ever made, is you know, integrating with those guys and providing opportunities to those guys, because even though they may have to travel here and there and to get deployed, like, they put in results on the field and they raise the culture of the club. And that's kind of like the theme that you'll see, especially with these guys coming from overseas. Like, if I come from a different country with limited opportunities and I come to America, like, even walking down these streets, even I'm impressed looking at these buildings, looking at all these people walking around, smelling the opportunities in the air. You know, I can't imagine coming from a foreign country, God forbid, like even a third world country, and you come here and it's like so overwhelming. But to be able to take care of those guys and trust those guys, I think makes a whole lot of sense. And because they appreciate it. They appreciate every second of it. And they're not here to mess around. They're here to create something for themselves. You know, like I go back to us growing up. Like, if we mess up, we just going back home down the street with mom and dad. Like, we don't got to take a flight back home to a war-torn country. You know what I mean? And so
literally,
that's where you get incredible stories like Karen FA, a community out in Minnesota. Like, and the term Karen, I actually just learned this speaking to their owner and head coach, is that Karen is actually a group of people out of the Southeast Asia, like the Burma, Myanmar area, which actually undergoes a lot of civil conflict. And so, you know, seeing those communities move over, of all places, to the Minnesota area, and just him looking around and saying, you know, I see a lot of people like me. I should bring these people together with one thing that we all love, which is football. And so shout out Karen Football Association. They're focused on giving opportunities to people from, you know, civil unrest countries in the Southeast Asian area. We've got people, like I mentioned, Columbus Knights, who are working with active military personnel, working with them. Both these clubs putting out great products on the field, you know, doing great. Another one is Soccer Saves Lives. Shout out Bruno Kalanji, doing big things down in Georgia, not only providing pathways through his academy and his club, but also giving back to his community through Soccer Saves Lives, and giving up cost-free opportunities for people to join his club and play at a high level. And they also compete in the UPSL. And so the ability to see those stories, and we get more and more stories every year. Seb's talking about Africa United. That's one of many, many stories we have. I feel like every time I come on here, I talk about the immigrant story and the story overseas. But, that's kind of the fabric of this country is the immigrant story. And it's no surprise that the fabric of football is the same thing.
It's incredible, man. I think that might be it for the UPSL. There's no other way to end it. That's absolutely perfect. Really appreciate you coming on, bro. And I think we can get into some general footy topics, bringing it back to the top 5 leagues.
Let's stay busy.
Y'all ready? Yeah. All right, let's do it. So today was the Champions League draw, Thursday, August 28th. And now that we just had the Champions League draw, or the draw for the European competition with the biggest clubs in the world, we're going to take a look specifically at La Liga. And I want to hear from y'all, and I'll give my opinion too, on who do we think from La Liga will go the furthest in this competition.
My understanding, and I was looking at this earlier today, last year, the Champions League, because it's a new format, the Champions League new format, essentially, if you got at least 11 points, you had a good chance of going through to the next round. Right. There were teams that got 11 points that fell just under, and then teams that got 10, 9, 8, all definitely didn't qualify. But the number that you're shooting for is 11 points, which is 3 wins and 2 draws. So when we're looking at this Champions League game with 8 matches to play, you got to find 3 wins and 2 draws.
Yeah.
Some of these La Liga teams may have a tough time getting 3 wins and 2 draws. This is a really interesting and tough group. And I think, as we've seen, the teams that actually have one of the tougher initial phases of the Champions League don't necessarily get discounted for then going on to win the whole thing. Because we saw last year, one of the teams that ended up having one of the more difficult initial rounds ended up winning the whole tournament.
Yeah, they didn't start very well, but they made it through. Absolutely.
And so that's kind of a two-sided issue.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really liking what Barcelona has to do in this tournament.
Barca? Is that your favorite in the European competition for La Liga? Barcelona, you think?
For me, it is. I think when I'm looking at how they start, it's real difficult at first. Some tough away games, especially out in England. But I think that'll set them up really nicely because the adversity at the beginning will take them all the way to the end of the tournament. And if we think about how they did last year, they were so close.
They were very close.
And I think they're only going to build on that.
Got you. I'm going to go with Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid is going to do the best in this competition. I think the draw gives them a pretty balanced opportunity of who they're playing. They're playing some of the best teams in the world, but they're also playing some teams that are very new to this competition. So I think it's good early on to face the difficult opponents, the teams that have gone on and won it, but also have the games where maybe you can play some reserves, maybe you can get a little bit of rest, also considering how busy and how long distance the travel schedule is for some of those games. But I think Real Madrid as well, knowing them being kind of the kings of this competition, last year losing in the quarterfinals, which is I think out of the last 15 Champions Leagues, they had made something of like 12 or 13 semifinals. So I think they're ready to kind of get back and be back to where they're supposed to be in that competition. So out of all the teams in La Liga, I think Real Madrid will go the furthest in Europe.
Yeah, looking at the draw, honestly, I'm going to have to go with Atletico Madrid. Okay. I'm going to go with experience in this tournament. I like how these guys operate in a knockout tournament phase. We've seen that before in the past.
Yep.
Putting together some surprising victories, a few that we don't expect. I know they have it tough. Listen, I see Inter Milan, I see Liverpool, I see Arsenal. Those are all really tough teams, but I'm not counting out the fact that they could win 1 or 2 of those games, maybe 1-0, maybe get a tie. So if they lose against maybe only one of those 2 teams, I could see with their tournament experience, especially in the Champions League, I could see them doing something crazy.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of crazy, we just had maybe one of the biggest upsets in football history. 4th tier League 2 side, Grimsby Town, just beat Manchester United on penalties in the EFL Carabao Cup. What a moment, y'all.
What's crazy is that it was 23 penalties.
Bro, I have never seen a penalty shootout go that long. I've never in my life. And the second longest, I actually ironically included Manchester United in the European final.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the sporting equivalent for a Grimsby Town, which is technically in the 4th division of English football, beating a Manchester United, which is, of course, a giant of world football?
What is the U.S. equivalent?
What is the U.S.
outside of soccer?
Equivalent?
This is like, maybe you know what this is like? Have you seen the video of those U-37 American football teams?
No, but that's interesting.
It is low-key almost like one of those teams beating an NFL team.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Or like a semi, like the big three in basketball.
Yep.
One of those teams, obviously you have to play 5v5, but if there was another version below the G League that beats an NBA team, like you almost can't, like the level of upset for American sports fans, you almost can't create it. Which is why I'm pulling strings thinking of opportunity. It doesn't exist. And that's the magic, I would say, of the Carabao Cup. You have a League Two side, a fourth division, beating also just one of the most historic teams in the world.
Yep.
So Manchester United in American sports could be Boston Celtics, LA Lakers, Dallas Cowboys, losing to a team you have never heard of and have never watched in your life. And they've only played that team once, I believe, 70 plus years ago. Like, how do you even explain that to Americans?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, bro.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say it's kind of like, it's like an arena football team, like beating the Patriots. You know what I mean?
It's something like that.
It's literally like a smaller team that has mastered or drilled their game plan so well that no matter what happens when they go out in that field and they go out in that game, they're going to play the way they learned how to play, and either it's going to work or it isn't. But they're going to, in typical British fashion, they're going to force their way through and try to get a result there. Yeah. And you saw the way they came out in that first half. I was like, oh, they're trying to do something.
Yeah, 2-0 first half.
2-0 first half.
Scored another goal that got ruled offsides. Unbelievable. Yeah. And what about the penalty shootout, Seb? That was crazy.
What do you want me to say? It was
like,
what do you want me to say?
They went past the full 11 and had to restart, and they didn't choke under the pressure.
Yeah. Not even the goalies.
Craziest part.
Not even the goalies.
How do you, like, you can't put this in a movie. It sounds like a joke.
I keep trying to think of what it's like. Like, I don't know. I think, is it even like, I think college is an interesting, like, one to look at.
That's really interesting.
Is there anything even below D3?
No. JUCO.
Yeah.
Is it like a JUCO team beating Alabama?
Yeah.
Oh, within college. Yeah. That's an interesting to bring it to college. JUCO beating Alabama. Maybe when Alabama's not at their best or something. But still, that's crazy. But like a historic big nation.
Yeah.
Or a team. The closest to actually NCAA tournament basketball, 16 seed beating a 1 seed would be the closest.
Nah, low-key even.
But it's worse. But it's more.
It's much worse.
Because you know what it'd be more? It'd be the bottom seed of the NIT, which is below the NCAA March Madness.
Yeah.
It would be that team beating a Duke 1 seed vibe. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Or maybe Duke wouldn't be a 1 seed. Maybe a year that Duke is an 8 seed, but still, that's the vibe. It's just crazy, bro. And even with United not being at their best, that doesn't matter. It's still absolutely insane.
Yeah.
When you think about the financial value difference, bro, come on. Cunha and Buemo alone is what, almost 150 million pounds.
Sesko too.
Shesko too. Now we're up to 200 plus.
I think that just speaks...
Onana, now we're at 300.
It just speaks to the fact that you can't buy football culture in your club.
You can't.
You know what I mean? You can tell those guys. They know how to play together.
Yeah.
And with Man United, like they're still figuring out if they're trying to be boys after practice ends. You know what I mean? Like, and
coach.
You could see that.
It's crazy.
And you could see that, and you kind of see the coach getting a little nervous too.
Yeah.
But Grimsby Town, they go nuts.
When he was playing, they did edits. He's like DJing. I was like, y'all are crazy, man. Y'all are crazy. Good old Ruben. Oh man.
3 major signings in the Bundesliga recently: 1 to Bayer Leverkusen, 1 to Bayern Munich, and 1 to Borussia Dortmund. Lucas Vazquez, Fabio Silva, and Nicholas Jackson all are joining the Bundesliga. Which is the most interesting signing to you guys? Who do you guys think will do the best? And who are you most excited to see?
The most interesting so far is probably Fabio Silva to Dortmund. That one's a little bit weird to me. I saw his performances with Wolves. They were all right. He played in Greece, I think, a little bit, or somewhere else on loan. But that he kind of just strikes me as maybe a guy who still has to figure his game out. That's a little surprising to me, but Dortmund does have the ability to transform maybe below top players into top players because they kind of know how to develop over there. I think Nicholas Jackson to Bayern is another interesting one, but that Fabio Silva one, given the resume, strikes me as a little bit odd. But I think Dortmund can do big things. Who else did you say on that list?
Lucas Vazquez.
To Leverkusen.
Who am I
for
most?
Frimpong. That's crazy.
For Frimpong. Who am I most excited to see? I would probably say Lucas Vazquez. That one's exciting to me personally. Shout out to my Leverkusen homies back over there. That one's exciting to me because that kind of raises the level at a club at a time where we're kind of getting rid of a lot of our top players. A lot of our leadership is going out the door. So be able to bring in someone like that for little to no money that has a lot of leadership capabilities that can deliver on the field still, I think, because Bundesliga, It may not be the top league, but it's still a very good level for him. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them on and off the field. And I think hopefully that brings together this Leverkusen team that has kind of been dismantled a little bit, but still has a strong core.
Yeah, I think the leadership aspect of Lucas Vazquez is probably the biggest factor because he honestly is coming off not his best season last year, but his experience is unbelievable. We're talking 4 or 5 Champions Leagues. I believe he's won at least 4, scoring in a Champions League final, winking and doing so. Like, he's an incredible... I mean, his trophy cabinet is something that club has never seen. So bringing that kind of pedigree, I think, is going to be huge. And Nicholas Jackson, I think, can be a really interesting signing for Bayern Munich. Obviously, Harry Kane is the number 9, but for a team like Bayern Munich that is always going for a treble, knowing just what the expectations are there, you need that sort of depth. You need people for cup ties, for when you're maybe resting somebody this weekend because you have a big European match coming up. I think him off the bench and then also being that second 9, he could thrive more than being the starter. So I think it could be a really good fit, actually.
And let's not forget, it's not uncommon for second 9s to really thrive at Bayern. Think about Choupo-Moting recently.
Yep.
He really did well at Bayern. I see that being as a very similar signing.
That's interesting.
So what you were saying about Fabio Silva, actually, I think for me that's the most interesting signing because it's unclear potential, it's untapped potential. How he did at Las Palmas last year was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And he's a bit of a positionless player. We've spoken about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Similar to what João Felix can be, similar to what maybe Nkunku can be, but he plays a little bit behind the lines.
Yep.
Those types of players that don't necessarily fit inside of an actual system. And I think Dortmund, with the midfield that they're creating, especially with Joe behind them, has the solidity in their midfield to be able to allow a player to kind of roam.
Yep.
So Fabio Silva, I trust Dortmund scouting. I always trust Dortmund scouting.
Fair.
You bring in a player that scored 10 goals last year in La Liga. He's only 23. To me, I think we could be seeing one of the next big Portuguese-like midfielders.
Yeah.
I think he'll do really well. I really do.
And you know what'll happen after that? They'll flip him for 80 million. That's how it goes. That's literally the Dortmund way.
To Bayern.
And probably to Bayern.
If you are an American fan looking for a Bundesliga team to support this year, if you're an American fan looking for a Bundesliga club to support this year, there is a club with 2 American players on the team. Something rare, something we don't often see in the Bundesliga. Guys, who are they? Who should you be watching?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joe Scally on Borussia Mönchengladbach. Of course, we had another big transfer there with Gio Reyna. But for me, Joe Scally, that's a big piece for them. He's been on their team for a few years now. Excellent right back addition. Can play in the center, maybe play a little bit in CDM. Can very versatile, maybe even the outside on the left back side. So I think a player like that is not only going to be highly valuable in a team that needs to be rotated throughout the season, in a team that needs to go the distance like Borussia Mönchengladbach, high expectations there, of course, but also for the U.S. in a World Cup year. So this should be a big year for Joe Scally and hugely talented, versatile player, I think.
For sure. And I think it's going to be a huge year for Gio Reyna as well, who already has Bundesliga experience from playing with Borussia Dortmund, where he absolutely balled out. I personally think he's one of the most talented U.S. men's national team players. His ability to carry the ball, beat defenders, he's a very good finisher, super creative, super confident. It can change a game in an instant, especially if he's coming on late, looking for that late difference-making ability. So I think he's just going to thrive, especially if he's given that consistent playing time and really given opportunity to get on the ball, make those runs, find his teammates, dribble at defenders, and really be able to be somebody who can create for this club. I think he's going to absolutely ball out, and I think it'll get him on the U.S. World Cup squad for sure.
You know what player I could see him replicating in the Bundesliga? On Dortmund. Let me do it again. You know what player I could see him replicating in the Bundesliga?
Who's that?
Julian Brandt on Dortmund, that number 10 position, that number
like
10
that.
right there,
like
able to move across the line, kind of lead the team from the middle.
A little bit of free roaming up there.
Exactly.
Sure.
So
I think
should be big stuff.
I think that's where he does the best. It's a fact. All right, y'all. Episode 92 of 5 Side Podcast.
Wow.
Peace.